Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melisa Caprio.
Hello, and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave. How is everyone? How has your week been? So we're out of retrograde. Apparently January 30th to February 20th is the official retrograde. And there's a pre-retrograde shadow, which is January 15th, and a post-retrograde shadow, which ends March 13th. And they call it retro shade or shadow period. And it's interesting because we're talking about the shadow today. And these typically go on for about 2 weeks before and after the actual retrograde. And basically it means that the planet is moving along the same path that it appeared to be moving backwards during its retrograde. It's kind of retracing its steps, I guess. That's what they say. And we're still in the shadow. So interesting, we're in the shadow. So some people are still feeling the effects of the retrograde. Many people have a tough time. How was your guys' past retrograde? I know some people live their lives by Mercury retrograde. Even though Mercury rules my sign, I am not one of them. I usually just kind of go with the flow. I mean, that's my personality anyway. I'll notice things like I'll have some issues with glitches or some missed emails or dropped phone calls. But overall, I like the retrogrades. I get to go back and clean up some stuff that I left unfinished. And Mercury retrograde is a great time to rework if that's what you need to do. So maybe look at it like that instead of like, oh no, it's a Mercury retrograde. Everything's going to crash and burn. No, it's not like that at all. So you guys know that you've been listening to me now for a while, that every week I create a Magic Monday message, which is an image that I photograph, and it always has an affirmation. And this week's affirmation is, I am enough. And this is a powerful affirmation, and everything stems on knowing that you are enough exactly as you are. If you feel you're not enough, nothing will shift. You will not make those changes that you desire for yourself. You're not going to be able to manifest what you want, and you're going to stay exactly where you are, feeling like you're not enough. We are always growing and changing, and the only constant in our life is that things are always changing. So yes, you are enough exactly as you are. You don't need to do or change anything to deserve love and respect and appreciation. And I have found as we grow, we desire to change things in our life, right? Just we grow. We want to change things. Staying stuck doesn't feel good anymore, and we become ready to make those changes, not because we need to make those changes, but we just feel like it's time. We feel that time to grow, and it's kind of an internal thing. We can't help it. And I noticed, if you're like me, most of us and anybody I've ever talked to, at least at some point in their life, has had the feeling that they weren't enough or were not enough. I'm not enough, right? So we think we aren't good enough, we're not smart enough, kind enough, pretty enough, skinny enough, rich enough, cool enough, talented enough, etc. I could go on forever. It's another endless list of not being enough. And we somehow have this idea when we look outside of us that others have it all together. And here we are flapping in the wind, trying to hold on to something that makes us feel safe. And the reason that we don't feel safe is because we don't feel enough. And enough for who? Who decided that? And where did you adopt that story for yourself? It's insidious how that not enough seeps into our psyche and shows up in our lives. And I talk a lot about feelings of worthiness in my book, Postcards to the Universe, and I go really into it with lots of writing exercises and tools to learn how to shift our belief from unworthiness to loving ourselves. Because I believe Everything stems from that belief. We need to work on our self-worth first before we can work on anything else, and especially about manifesting. And even learning to love our shadow side. And we all have a shadow side. And that's what we're going to talk about today with my guest, Kristina Lafrance, who's going to come out in just a minute. For those of you who want to see my Magic Monday message, you can see it on my website, postcardstotheuniverse.com, or any of my social media platforms. If you're on Facebook, I have a Facebook group, Postcards of Love, where I share inspirational stories, mostly beautiful photos, especially funny pictures of animals. I love all that stuff. Anything with heartfelt messages that makes you feel good when you look at it. We get enough crap already. We don't need to see it on my Facebook page, so I don't share that too much, especially in the Postcards of Love group. I never share anything negative. It's always uplifting and inspirational. And if you are looking for something to read that's inspirational, go check out my book, Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can get to it through my website. My guest next week is an author of 24 books. Her name is Cass Young, and her latest book is Living the Fairy Life, a guide to connecting with the magic, power, and joy of the enchanted realm. So that should be a fun show. I don't know her, and I'm excited to get to know her. So she's going to be with me next week. All right, let me get to my amazing guest today. I just love her so much. Kristina Lafrance is a psychic medium. She's a powerful motivational speaker, charismatic broadcast personality, and spiritual teacher in demand for her guidance, wisdom, and capacity to help you heal old wounds and unfold your soul contract. She is most recognized for her ability to instantly zero in on core issues in your life within minutes of speaking with you. She's also a natural-born medium. She's been communicating with the other side since she was a small child. And you can find her if you go to her website. It's Kristina with a K, Kristina, Lafrance, LAFRANCE.com. Welcome, Kristina. How are you? I'm so excited.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Melissa. I'm excited to be here. Wonderful.
Yeah, I know. I miss talking to you. She's such a good. Kristina and I have been on the phone because we know each other now for a while. For look at the clock, and 3 hours have gone by. We need to get off the phone.
It does, right? It just goes by so fast. I'm like, oh my God, we've been on the phone for 3 hours. We can talk each other's heads off. It's never boring, that's for sure.
I know. So how have you been? What have you been up to? Share a little bit for the OMTime listeners about you. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you summed it up in my my little thing that I gave you, my bio, my little bio. My brain is a little fuzzy today. I've been communicating with people who have crossed over probably since I'm about 3 years old. It's just something that innately was part of my life, and I think I started professionally reading for people while I was maybe in my late 30s. It took a while for me to want to do that.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
And once I started doing it, I mean, it wouldn't leave me alone, so I had no choice. But once I started doing it, I really enjoyed it, you know. And I enjoyed helping people with closure, with people that crossed over that would bring messages. And then it kind of evolved into a lot of shadow work. I started working for a company called 12listen.com, which I currently still work for. And a lot of the callers, they had so many questions about their future, but I was really being pushed to help them mend, old habits and old hurts in their lives that were currently keeping them stuck in this, like a repeat cycle, like you were talking about in your intro. And it just evolved. I mean, I still do mediumship. It's probably only 20, maybe 15% of my clientele now. I can't get away from it, but I want to say most of my work is revolved around shadow work and helping people reclaim themselves and move forward to create lives that are more fulfilling. Yeah.
For those who don't know, the shadow, when we're talking about shadow, it's it's a psychology term, and it's also known as like the id, shadow aspect, the shadow archetype, and it's an unconscious aspect of the personality.
That's right. It's unclaimed.
Yeah, it's unclaimed that our ego can't identify with or doesn't identify with. And you see it, we see it a lot, right? You see it how it acts out.
Well, it acts out constantly, and it's like, I always explain it to people like this. Like, people say to me, like, what is the shadow? To sum it up, it's like Melissa said, it's the unclaimed parts of ourselves that we wish nobody knew about us. And people always say to me, well, Kristina, how do I know that, what's in my shadow if I can't see it? And I always say it's so simple, because whatever triggers you in life and really sets you off into a place of anger or despair or shame, that's how you know you're starting to awaken the shadow. So if somebody says something to you that sets you off the rails, crying or angry or pissed off, or you snap back at the person, and, that's how you know that your shadow is at play. But the crazy thing about our shadow is that it's always working. It's always at play. And how we could figure that out is by what triggers us is a neat trick. But another way that we could also figure out our shadow is we look at current patterns that are happening in our lives. What's on repeat cycle for you? What keeps happening over and over to you that puts you in despair, which puts you in shame, which upsets you? And people, what happens is that when their shadow is at work and they're not realizing it, their shadow is kind of running the show and they're not realizing it, you can tell when that's happening in a person's life or in your own life when you're currently involved in addictive behavior. Because a lot of people, there's that big question mark of, why do I have addictive behavior? Why am I addicted to exercising? Why am I addicted to smoking? Why am I addicted to overeating? Why? Fill in the blank, because we all have something that we indulge in or that we're shameful for. And that's how we manage our shadow. So that's another way to see, well, is my shadow really, how is it playing out? And if you have an addiction that's up and running in your life that you just can't get a hold of, you definitely know that behind that addiction is your shadow at play. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. Right? I never thought about it like that, but that makes so much sense. But I want to ask you this question, because everybody says that, and people say it kind of loose. And I think just because you see something, if you see an atrocity in the world and it brings you up to being angry, that doesn't mean that that's part of your shadow, right? Like, if you see something horrible, like, children being abused, and you feel like that, and it makes you so angry, that doesn't mean that's a shadow part of you, right? Like, we can be angry at things that we see without it being our shadow.
So you're saying, like, a lot of people, it's kind of a dicey thing, because a lot of people say if you name it, you claim it, right?
Right.
People get very black and white with spirituality. So we've got to be careful, because that's a really dicey road to walk down. But I will say this. I say that when you see children being abused and you see things on the internet that just anger you, that's the collective shadow. That's not necessarily, that's not your shadow, Melissa. That's the collective shadow. Okay?
Yeah.
So, but it might be someone else's shadow. It might be that they were terribly abused as a child. They might have been abused themselves, so it really drums them up when they see it, right? So it's like, okay, that really affects me because I was abused as a child. Or if you weren't abused as a child, but you get really upset over it, it's because it's the collective shadow, because you're part of the collective shadow, right?
Right.
So, and of course, and listen, there's another caveat to that, is that you get so upset when you see, I don't mean you particularly, but I just mean people
I know what you mean.
in general get upset when they see child abuse, because guess what? It's pushing you to do something about it. Because we need people in the world that stand up for our children. We need activists. So whatever is activating in you, there is definitely an individual reason why. And then we also have, there's so many different reasons why, but then the other reason is that we're so empathic. I know that when I see child abuse and I get sick to my stomach, I physically become ill because I'm such a screaming empath, you know? So so there's a lot of different reasons, but it doesn't mean like you're getting upset over child abuse because you're a child abuser. No.
Right.
A lot of people get confused about that. That's a really great question because a lot of people get very black and white with this concept of the shadow, and it's not black and white.
Yeah, it's true. And then, you know, like you'll have this spiritual snobbery people that say, oh, well, you're just being triggered. And but when they say that, that's what triggers me. What do you mean I'm just being triggered?
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, some people are being triggered. Some people are being triggered because they're abusive people. Some people are being triggered because they were abused. Some people are being triggered because it's the collective shadow. Some people are being triggered because the universe is pushing them to do something about it. Like, you're supposed to have a voice for children. You know? I mean, there's so many. Those are just small, big examples, actually, of why. But there definitely are more. I get you. That's a great question.
No, I love the fact that you said you were talking about when you see certain things, you have to remember that's also what we're seeing out there is we're witnessing the collective shadow, which totally like rang true to me because if I see anything that's injustice, it gets me really upset. Anything about abuse gets me really upset. Crimes against women, people of color, animals, forget it. I see anything about an animal and I am like, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done for the day. I can't have any of that crap in my news feed because it just wipes me out. And for a while, it wipes me out. For a while, I was a major advocate for animals, and I fostered animals for many years. My house was a zoo. I would have 3 to 5 dogs in my house, fostering them. I had tons of cats. I mean, I went through like a 10-year period where I did that. And I believe that was my calling at that point, you know? So it's, you know, there's dozens of reasons, but it's always very individual to who we are for why we get triggered up about certain things. Yeah.
All right, let's stop here. Let's take our break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. So stay tuned with Kristina Lafrance.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
The rainbow is God's promise of hope for you and me. And though the clouds hang heavy and the sun we cannot see, we know above the dark clouds that fill the stormy sky, hope's rainbow will come shining through when the clouds have drifted by. Teresa Caprio is the president and founder of Rainbow Guardian Inc., a nonprofit 501c3 serving the intellectually challenged/developmentally disabled, including autism. Teresa started the foundation in 1995 so she could help make a better life for her intellectually challenged daughter. Her dream is that the Rainbow Guardian will provide the necessary tools and education to help the public understand the special needs population, because it's often discarded in mainstream society. To find out more or make a donation in support, please go to www.rainbowguardian.org. Rainbow Guardian's special mission is to see these unique people live a happy, full life and have a future of liberty and equality.
Welcome back. I have Kristina Lafrance on. She's a psychic medium and a powerful motivational speaker. So I said we were going back. So go ahead, say it, because people heard the commercial.
Yeah,
so please make the point.
Go
ahead.
Your mother, first of all, your mother's I don't have to tell you that your mother's amazing.
Yeah. Yes,
but,
I know she is.
She is, and she's such a strong woman, and the power in her. Anybody who... She's just such a shining example of what we're talking about in terms of that she uses that power within her and her sadness or her anger towards anybody who would mistreat a child, especially on the spectrum. Look at all the good that she's doing in the world. Like, if she would get fired up if she ever hurt anybody, you know what I'm trying to say to you? Like, she's a perfect example of taking that and turning it into a beautiful thing that helps people. I love that.
Yeah. No, it is true. And she definitely has a warrior spirit. My mom's a fighter.
Oh, yeah.
And she's had to fight because of my sister and fight for her rights. And so she's, she does sometimes. Sometimes we have to remind her, you don't have to fight everybody, Mom.
I know. My kids tell me that, too, because I have the warrior spirit like your mother as well.
Yeah.
But you know what your mother did? Your mother turned that... Instead of turning herself into a victim, poor me, look at what life has thrown at me, your mother is the perfect example of turning those lemons into lemonade. She didn't let life get her down, that the system wasn't doing enough or doing this. She went and she took care of it, and she provided for her daughter. So it's a beautiful example of how people can live on their shadow side of, oh, poor me, or they can turn it around and turn it into a rainbow, really.
Yeah.
Well, pretty amazing.
I know. It really is. And a lot of us project, tell people what you mean by, well, maybe we should do this first. Are there shadow archetypes? Because I have read about it. So are there certain ones that seem to show up for most of us? We're either a little bit like this or we're a little bit like this. Like maybe you could share a little bit about what that is so people kind of understand. Yeah. Yeah.
So archetypes are just a pattern that we're currently going through in our life, right? Because people are like, what the hell's an archetype? So the archetype, we'll use the archetype of a mother because that's really simple to use. So, we have the mother archetype, and people look at the mother archetype and they say, well, she's a mother. Like, you can look at one of your friends or a family member and be like, oh, she possesses the mother archetype so beautifully. Like, she's Susie Homemaker, she's baking cookies, she's cooking, she takes such good care of these kids. But then the shadow side of the mother would be the devouring mother, who every archetype has a shadow. You understand that, right? So as beautiful as the mother archetype can be, there is the complete opposite in the world. So you hear these people all the time, my mother was the devil, what I mean? Right. She was the devouring mother who, possessed me and ran my life and drove me crazy and blah, blah, blah. So every archetype has the shadow side. There's, there are so many. Carolyn Mace, if you go to her website, she has an entire list of archetypes, and she actually shows you the shadow side to each archetype, which is very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know what yours is? Do you know what one of your archetypes are in its shadow?
Oh God!
You just have to pick one.
Absolutely. I mean, we have 12. All of us possess 12 within our contracts. And I think four archetypes are innate to all of us. Mm-hmm. So I would say one of my archetypes for sure is the teacher. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That would be, so what would be the shadow of the teacher?
Oh, so the shadow of the teacher would be that I would be teaching things that were not good for people. So I would be teaching them things that would steer them in the wrong direction. So how you would see that in the world is, have you ever seen these cults pop up where these people, these spiritual teachers pop up and they run these cults that, you know, these people wind up killing themselves or they wind up, I mean, there's so many of, so you get it, right? That would be the shadow side to the teacher. There you go. There you go.
Oh, yeah. I think we've seen a lot of the collective shadow show up in this past year. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like never before. At least, well, in my lifetime, I should say never before. I can't say never before, but that I've been a witness to. No, it's crazy.
100%. And not to talk about politics, but, you know, a lot of people would call me up and say, why is this man our president, right? Mm-hmm. And I would always say, he's the collective. He represents the collective. Mm-hmm. You know, and people would say, what do you mean? And it's showing up as the collective of the current status of the way that the country was running, you know. So, you know, I don't want to get into politics.
No, but it's just... But it's showing up in our world. Yeah,
exactly.
No, it's a very good example. And what happens, okay, so I know a lot of people like to pretend that they've grown and they've evolved so much that they don't even have a shadow.
Stay away from those people. When someone tells you they don't have a shadow and they've got it all figured out and they are perfect in the world and they are awoken, those are the people you want to stay away from.
I think so too. So what really they're doing is they're repressing their shadow, deeply repressing. So what happened? Like, what could happen when we repress our shadow to that degree?
I mean, there's a good example of that. There was this spiritual teacher, and I can't remember his name. I probably wouldn't say it even if I did. Mm-hmm. But people, when I tell the story, and I'm going to probably botch it a little bit, people might know who I'm talking about. But this was a very popular spiritual teacher who showed up in a lot of spiritual movies. I think he was even in The Secret. And he wound up having this unbelievable, horrible event happen at one of his seminars where people died in a tent.
I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about, but we won't say his name. But I know who you're talking about.
So and other people might know, but there is a good example, and answering your question right there, of what could happen. Okay, so what happens is that your shadow is relentless, and it'll never let you alone. It will never let you alone. And the more that you ignore it, I'm going to explain it to you like this, which I say this to everybody because it's so simple and you can understand it easily, is that it's the equivalency of locking a child or a person or an animal in a basement and not giving it any love, attention, or food. What's eventually going to happen, right? There's going to be, you know, it's that person or animal will start screaming. So what happens is I think Debbie Ford explained it very well. She called it the beach ball effect.
I was just thinking that. You're reading my mind. No, seriously, I had it in my head when you said it.
Yeah, isn't that? It's such an amazing example because it's the equivalent of holding all these beach balls underwater. They're going to eventually pop up. So it happens to people all the time. They'll say things. There was a popular radio show jock who said all these explicit, you know, things on radio. He wound up getting fired after having a 40-year career on radio. It's going to pop up eventually. You're not going to be able to hold those beach balls under for too long. Or what you're going to do is you're going to manage your shadow with addiction, and your addiction could wind up killing you or getting you very sick. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Most of us manage with addiction. Yeah.
Yeah, most of us do that. But even like an example is, I don't know how long ago it was, but I think even Debbie Ford may have mentioned it when she did her movie, the Shadow. What was it called? The The Shadow. I can't
Shadow
remember.
Effect.
The Shadow Effect. Thank you. Mel
movie.
Gibson. Remember when Mel Gibson was drinking and he got pulled over and he started doing all those anti-Semitic rants and stuff?
That is such a perfect example, Melissa. And that's exactly what happens. Eventually, what's going to happen is it's going to destroy your relationships. It's going to, destroys marriages. It destroys friendships. And it also runs addictions in your life. So, shadow work, listen, I tell everybody this, shadow work it's not an easy thing, but it's a must. It really is a must, and how we can really start to, understand our shadow, and we have to be kind to ourselves. See, because what really keeps our shadow in place is that the fact that we are shameful of it. So if you start to discover, things about yourself that are, currently running the show in your life, and you have this aha moment that says, oh my God, I can never be in a relationship with anybody because I am deeply afraid of being betrayed. Let's just say that that's part of your shadow, right? I'm so afraid that someone is going to betray me that I can't be in relationships, or I keep picking the same guy over and over, or the same woman over and over that keeps betraying me. If we go into shame over that, then we just keep projecting it forward and bringing it in. Because people will call me up all the time and say, well, I know that I'm afraid of being betrayed, but that doesn't help me. And that's the truth. Just because you intellectually can identify with it, it doesn't help you. What you have to do is you have to identify with it, but it doesn't stop there. You have to love yourself through it and understand, and you have to have a witness to your story. You have to claim your story. You have to have somebody who you trust to tell your story to. And then you have to move into a space that says, I've got to move into a space where I am able to understand that this was part of my contract. This was part of my learning experience on this earth plane. And I've got to learn to let this go, and that it sounds simple, but it's a lot of work. And it's not, listen, it's not for the weak. Yeah. It's a difficult process, Yeah.
Yeah, but it isn't for the weak. But what I find interesting is I think it teaches you about even deeper about self-love, because if you can love the parts of yourself that are hurtful and wounded and shameful and guilty, and you can learn to what that does for your psyche and your energy levels and your emotional body and manifestation and all of that stuff, right? Like because we're not denying it anymore. Right.
Well, it's the key, because a lot of people, and I'm sure you deal with this a lot when you talk to people because of what you do. You're pretty much a manifesting coach. Like the thing about it is that you can't manifest anything. You said this in the intro. You really can't manifest anything if you're holding all that negative energy. It's really, it's not. See, people say to me all the time, Kristina, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I've read all the books, I bought the T-shirt. Why am I still poor? You know what I mean? And I always say to them, it's not what you're outwardly doing. It's what you're holding in your shadow. That you manifest from what you're holding underneath. Is what people don't get. That's why it's so important to spot that stuff and to forgive and to let go. Because a lot of people hold on to their pain like a badge of honor.
Yes, I know. It's true. It's true. Forgiveness is tough work. And so is self-worth, working on yourself. I don't, we really, if you don't, I say it in all the time, and I say it in my book, if you don't think that you deserve something because you feel worthless, you can say as many affirmations as you want. Exactly. You could do jumping jacks. It doesn't matter. You don't feel you deserve it, so it's never going to come to you. So
it's all about wholeness. Yeah.
Yes, it's all about whole-ness. Yeah. So I think learning to embrace the shadow, your shadows, is really important. Like I know one of mine is I have a little bit of that detacher. It's like a detachment. Like I can detach, I could step back, and observe. And people, I have a tendency I have a tendency when I am angry or upset to get very cold. Very cold, and it's like ice, like I'm like the ice queen, and I know that's like that's part of who I am, so I don't pretend it's not true, because it's there, and I know it's there, and I see it when I'm in that, especially if I'm hurting and I'm really, really mad,
Yeah. So loving that part of you would include you saying to people around you, I love you, I need to detach for a little while to process. So because you're an air sign, right? We really do need to process. I have a lot of that in my personality as well, and I know a lot of people and loved ones around me get pissed off when I pull away like that.
Yeah,
but I explain to people, instead of getting shameful over it, I just put out the information to everyone and say, I'm about to detach, and this is nothing personal to anybody, but this is the way that I heal and I process. So we have to love ourselves through that process, because that process is yours, Melisa, and that's a beautiful part of you. You need to step back sometimes. You need to. I would rather you step back than say things you don't mean.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody starts to know, because I don't say like I'm detaching, but I'm like, all right, I need my quiet time, and I shut my phone off. Like, don't bother me. I turn it off, do not disturb. And everybody knows. They're like, oh, okay. She doesn't want to be bothered.
I'm the same way, but to this day, my own mother will get mad at me, and I'll say to her, why are you taking this personally?
No, my mom still does too. What's the matter? Nothing, Mom. I'm just overwhelmed. I just need a minute. I got to think. I can't get to my thoughts. Are you all right? Are you all right? Yes, I'm fine.
I love it. No, and it's perfectly good. That's your personality, and that's beautiful. And just to own that about yourself. And just be like, that's it. That's who I am. I have to detach and process. And that's the way I operate, and I'm not apologizing for it. Love
Exactly. My mom's the complete opposite, but we're going to take our second break. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just 2 minutes with Kristina Lafrance.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
COVID-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back. So, Kristina, we were talking about, I was talking a little bit about, I know I have the detacher, where I need to detach. And I was saying that before we went to break, that my mom's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
She says every thought out loud, every feeling and every thought out loud.
Oh my God, I love her. What's her sign? I love her.
She's a Gemini also. Our birthdays are 3 days apart. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. It's interesting. I wonder what her moon and her rising is, but it's so interesting because my brother and my father have the exact charts, and they're so different. Mm-hmm. So it's and my twins too. My twins are born 2 minutes apart, and they are so different from each other, but with the same exact chart. It's so funny.
It's so crazy. It's crazy.
It really is. It really is.
Well, I know a lot of people don't really want to go into shadow work. And I've done some shadow work. Obviously, you facilitate shadow work. You've done it. You've been working with it for years. Maybe I mean, what would be the benefit? Somebody listening right now who says, maybe that's what's going on with me. Maybe I need to discover why I keep picking the same partners over and over again, or why when I'm, I keep picking up the bottle, or whatever it is that they're doing that they don't want to do anymore. What would be the benefits of embracing our shadow? What should we do?
Destiny is the benefit. We unlock our destinies, and because what happens is when we don't embrace the shadow and it's running our lives, what we're essentially doing is we're off on side contracts. And not that that's right, wrong, good, or bad, because it's not. Nothing is really right, wrong, good, or bad. It's just that it's a longer ride. So I think that when we embrace the shadow, we start to unlock what is frozen in our lives. And a lot of the time people will call me up and they'll say, I want to know what I'm supposed to be doing in life. Why am I here? What's my purpose?
Right.
Yeah. And as if it's something you could answer in 2 minutes, right?
I know.
And I love that. I love that because I'll tell you why I love it, because I know that person is ready to take that leap. And that's when shadow work is really essential, because we have to clean up all the noise and what is currently dragging us down. I talk to people, I get into their energy field, and I start to pull out what it is, where their spirit is. Our spirit is scattered all over the place. We leave our spirit behind in so many things that happen to us in our lives.
Yeah.
I know people that are, being held back by something that happened to them 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So the benefit of it is to kind of move forward and open up a different life for ourselves. Because a lot of us have ourselves programmed to think, oh, well, this will never change. I could never say this to my mom, or I could never let my father know how hurt I was, or I could never, tell my partner this, or, we're kind of bound by these unspoken things that, currently keep us trapped in unhappy marriages and friendships and jobs and fear, quite frankly. When we have so much holding us down, it really stops us from creating a life that is what we want. We're just too afraid.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that anything we repress, right, when we're repressing, and I have a habit of doing that, and I know it. I'm very aware, and I'm much better now I am than I'm not. But what happens is it'll manifest as a dis-ease in your body somewhere. You'll get sick, you could get hurt,
100%.
And actually, my stomach has been crap lately, and I'm like, all right, what's going on? I'm asking myself, what is going on? I haven't figured it out yet. It hasn't come to me. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's some other layers coming up right now.
Melissa, that's so beautiful that you said that, because the body doesn't lie. The body does not lie. I had a frozen shoulder about a year ago. And what I had to what I had to realize was where am I frozen in life? Where is my stubbornness that I'm not seeing a different path? Like a lot of people, they get so locked onto this. No, this is just the way it is, Christina. I can't change it.
Right.
You know, and especially with forgiveness, I think forgiveness is so difficult for people, and it used to be really difficult for me until I realized that, you know, when we carry unforgiveness and we are holding a grudge on somebody, it's really pulling our energy field down. So what happens is that the short version of why we should forgive people is because we free ourselves, and there's so much truth to that. And we're not doing it for the other person. That's what holds people back from forgiving, because it feels good to hold on to the grudge.
Right,
So,
it does.
Yeah, it really does. You have to be honest. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I've held on to many grudges because it felt
Me
good.
too.
It felt like revenge, right?
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, it's not. What it's really doing is it's harming us in moving forward in our lives.
Right.
So when I have a difficult situation in my life, just to give the audience a little tidbit on how to start to forgive something difficult, the only thing that you have to do at this moment is keep this mantra alive in your brain. And whenever you think of that person, place, or situation that is unforgivable to you, you just close your eyes and you say, I am willing to forgive this. That's it. You don't have to say, because if you said you forgave, then you're lying, right?
Right.
The body knows you're lying. Your stomach will start to hurt.
Of course it does.
So all you have to say to the universe is, I am willing to forgive. And when you are willing to do something, the universe will then conspire with you to open up a dialogue that will then in turn bring you to a place of forgiveness. And it's not going to happen overnight, but every time you seethe over it and you get mad and you think about that person and what they did to you, you just say, I'm willing to forgive. Grit your teeth, I'm willing to forgive, I'm willing to forgive. And I promise you that if you keep that going, you will find a way to forgive that person. You really will.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've learned over the years that people think like that means you have to forgive all at once. And that's not how forgiveness works. You forgive a little at a time, just a little at a time.
It's a layer. It comes in layers. And that's it. You just have to say, I'm willing to forgive. And the universe will then start to bring in messages to you. Listen, I've had some real doozies I've had to forgive. I'm sure you have, and everybody out there listening. We all have. It's part of the human experience, right? But eventually you move into a space that says, okay, because you realize it's not for the other person. And you're not saying that what they did was okay. It's for you. You're setting yourself free.
It's for you. So it's so funny that you said you had frozen shoulder. Guess who else had frozen shoulder? My mom. She's so stubborn.
Yes.
So did you figure out what it was for you? Did you figure out what it was? You did.
I most certainly did, because it was something that I needed to let go of. See, I was trying so hard to turn a situation around that I had no business turning around. And once I realized that I had to just be okay with what it was, and that I had no control over that situation, and that it was, I know a lot of people hate this saying, but it is what it is sometimes.
Yeah,
and sometimes we have to accept the situation for what it is and hand it over to the universe. And once I started to do that, I started to heal. I mean, the doctor told me it would take anywhere from 12 to 18 months to heal this thing. And I looked at him and I was like, you're out of your goddamn mind. But I was like, there's no way. No, because your mother will attest that is the worst pain that you could ever feel in your life.
She was in very pain. She was in a lot of pain. Yeah, she was terribly painful. Yeah, for her.
Yeah. Horrible. So I was able to come out from underneath it in 6 months. The doctor was like, wow, that's pretty good. It was painful, you know. It was mostly emotional work that I did that unhinged my arm. Funny thing is, about 4 months ago, the other shoulder started to freeze again.
No.
And I was like, no way. But I was slipping back into trying to change that situation again. And I said, okay, got to catch myself. And the minute that I started doing the hard shadow work and really going deep on, Christina, you got to let this go. You can't change it. It started to unhinge again. And it never froze completely. So I was able because, you know, I'm a yoga freak. So I was able to push myself along with a lot of yoga, a lot of physical therapy, but also it was mostly doing the deep emotional work that was behind it and catching myself. And the shoulder didn't freeze up. Thank the gods.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's I remember it's very painful. Well, our body is a big indicator. So, yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? Now, I know what's going on with my stomach physically. I got that part down, but I'm like, but where's the emotional trigger? Like I see, like what is this? Like what's something is rising to the surface.
Yes.
Because because it's not only that I keep, like belching, excuse me, but I am, there's an indigestion, something I'm not being able to swallow, and I don't know.
Something you're not digesting. So the universe is saying it's something that you're not digesting.
I know, and I'm trying to figure out what it is.
I'm not going to disclose personal information on the radio, but I will say it's from a very long time ago. And it's something that you've been digesting for probably some time now, and you're at the end of it. Okay, so it's not like you haven't done work towards this, but you're at the end of it, and you're holding on to something a little bit, and this is why your stomach's bubbling up. But the thing about it is that I feel like it's going to dissipate over the next couple of months if you get really honest with yourself about it. It's something you've done a lot of work on, but it's bubbling up again. You're at the end of it, and it's almost like, I'll explain it to you this way. It's like why my other shoulder started to freeze, because I knew to let go of this thing. I knew I had no control over it. I had to look at it as a soul contract. Christina, this is the way it was supposed to be. You can't change it. But there was this little part of me that was holding on to it. So I had to do, so I think you're doing dusting up like I was. So you're just dusting up like something that was old, Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I kind of felt like it was something old too. Isn't that weird? Like it was something from deep that it's just rising to the surface. Like I almost pictured like the ocean, when a bubble comes up, like it's been down there, but it's not new stuff. Because truthfully, right now, knock on wood, I always say that, knock on wood, everything's good personally. You know what I mean? Like, so it's,
and you know what, Melissa? It's like, it takes a long time to digest and a long time to process through certain things and hurts in our lives. And you're at the tail end of it. So it's like, your guides are showing me like you're like 97% there. You got like
good.
3%. You got this 3% that you're letting it go. And a lot of people don't realize this, but, a lot of us would look at it like, oh, God, I'm still holding on to this. But no, we got to look at it as, oh, God, I'm finally at the end of this. Like I'm letting it go. I'm digesting it. I'm letting it go.
I'm finally letting it go. Yeah, whatever.
It's an actual good thing. It's an actual good thing.
So I'll just be burping it up for the next few months.
Yeah, you're burping it up. You're digesting it. But that is your personality, and it's my personality too. I mean, I remember you posted something, I'm pretty sure it was you a long time ago, that said something like, anything I ever had to let go of had
claw marks on it. Yeah, that was me.
I recently just saw that come up in my memories, and I posted it again. I thought of you. I smiled because I remember I got that from you. And that is so my personality as well. So we're very similar in that way. So I would say that is what's going on. But it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because you're at the tail end.
Yay, that makes me happy to hear. Thank goodness. We only have like a couple minutes, so I want you to tell people like if they want to do work, if they want to work with you, if they want to get a reading. I don't know, do you work with people individually to help them with their shadow? Do you do that?
I do.
Okay, so tell everybody.
So if anybody wants to connect with me, they can go to my website, ChristinaLafrance.com. It's spelled with a K. And also, if you just want to find me, you can find me on 12listen.com. If you go to the website, you'll see my picture up there. You can just click on my picture, and you can give me a call anytime. I'm pretty much signed on to the network on a daily basis. So it's a really great service, 12listen, because you don't need to make an appointment. And if you see me available, you just click on my face, and that's it. You're connected with me within a few minutes. Of course, if you're new, you'd have to sign up for an account, which takes maybe 5 minutes. But that's the beauty of that. It's that you can connect right away anytime when you want. On-demand advice.
Yeah, exactly. She's amazing. things. So I highly recommend working with Kristina, especially if you have something unresolved that you really want to like dig deep and figure it out, because she'll tell you.
Yeah,
she'll be like, I see, you may want to look at this. Have you thought about this? But no, it's so,
we get to the root.
so
That's
good.
what the great thing about it is that we get to the root of so much that could take you 6 months in therapy. We can get down to it in a half-hour session.
Yeah,
and it's not that it's going to be solved in one session, but you're on the right track, and you're aware of what's happening. Yeah.
I know, because a lot of it is we're unaware, right? And once we're aware of what our issue is, then we can start getting the tools to change it, to fix it, to shift it, and that's really what we want to do, because
it's all about wholeness, like you said, honey, feeling whole. Feeling worthy and feeling like people always say, like, how come I can't bring more money in my life? And I say, because exactly of what you just said, because you're in that vibration of I have no money. If you just look around at everything you currently have and you're just grateful on a daily basis of, I don't need anything, I have everything, you better watch out, because a lot of stuff comes bum rushing to you after that.
Perfect way to end. I love it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kristina, and thank you guys for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave, and wishing everybody a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Peace.